Okie dokie, so I'm going to show you how I forge out the pieces to a sign bracket that I drew up. I'm not 100% sure on how I feel about it yet, but after I get it all put together, I think I'll probably like it. Right here, I'm just forge welding. I didn't really get too much video of me doing the first bit of scrolls and everything. I kind of just rushed into doing that, trying to hurry up and get it done, but here I am just welding this bar, which is the bottom scroll. This will actually attach to the bottom part of the bracket, I think. Yeah, this is the one that goes on, attaches to the bottom part of the bracket. The other scroll that's on the other end, that one attaches to the back plate that'll attach to the building. So I'm just welding this up right here. I'm brushing it off, and here's the weld. Same, or not the same weld, but for the same bar. Just a different angle. I did about 2 or 3 welding heats on this just to make sure everything's stuck good and everything. Doing this, I'm kind of hitting it harder and slower than I usually would setting a weld, but it seemed to go alright. There's me yelling at the bar, telling it to stick better, but it stuck either way. You might see there's kind of a bend in there that I put in. It's just so, the way my forge is, my forge was probably made to do horseshoes and small shit like that when it was first made, and it kind of has a lip on it, so you have to kind of bend your bar to get it to fit down into your fire so you can get it up to a welding heat. So you kind of have to put a bend in it sometimes. And here's me starting to scroll that bar that I welded on. Normally I would just forge the scroll over the anvil, but I have this jig, and it's nice to use the jig, especially if I want to make another bracket like this again. I can just take the jig and throw it in the vise and use it that way instead of having to sit here and remember how exactly I did the other scroll. So let's say I sell the sign bracket this year and I don't have a person wanting another one just like it. In 3 years, I won't remember how I forged that scroll. So having the jig is kind of nice. And here's where I'm twisting it. I wasn't planning on doing a twist on these parts, but I just kind of got the wild hair, so I was like, well, I'll twist it, see how it looks. And I'm happy with the way the twists look. I'll say that much for free. There's me just putting it back in the vise to straighten everything out and everything. This summer I'm going to build a bench that I can just throw that vise on so it's not sitting on that post, so it's not as loose. I just bought that vise, and it's actually one of the best vices I've ever had. But that post it's sitting on is kind of a piece of junk, and I just need to do something different, so when I get a vise put on a bench and everything, it's tighter. It's not going to move around when you're trying to twist and straighten shit. But there's me just drawing out a little taper so I can do the bottom bar for the bracket. And then there's me just kind of rolling it up. In the video, it doesn't look all that hot like you're supposed to have for a forging temperature, but it's actually way hotter than what you think and what it looks like. But when I'm rolling a scroll, I'm not trying to draw out material. I'm just trying to roll it up so it's nice and tight and looks good. There's me talking to the scroll. Because when you're in your shop for 12 plus hours trying to get things made and everything, you start going a little crazy, so you start talking to yourself. think right here I was cooling it off. Yeah, I was, so I didn't screw up the scroll that I was already doing. I'll admit, on the scroll part of this bracket, I actually like the way the scrolls turned out. It's just the finished bracket. Well, it's not finished, but just like having the parts together, I keep looking at it, and I'm still not 100% sure if I like the look of it. But we'll just have to see how it looks when it's completed. Still debating if I want to just leave it like bare, like brushed steel color, or if I want to paint it, or I have no idea yet. But I know this whole thing, it's not going to be welded or anything like that. I'm not going to take the stick welder out and weld this bracket together. I'm actually going to take the time, punch, drift, and rivet it. I did think about doing tenons to attach some of the pieces, but I like the way the rivets look. So I'm just going to do rivets. I think I got it counted out in my head so far to 5 rivets it'll take. I'll have 2 or 3 that are 1/4 inch rivets, and some of them might be 3/8 rivets. And there's me just knocking off the corners of the bar while it still has a little bit of heat left in it. Usually when you get like brand new square bar you buy from a steel place, it'll have like a really sharp edge, and I don't like the way a sharp edge looks on your work. There's me drawing out down to a point so I can scroll the bottom of this back plate. Usually when I do back plates, I'll do it at a flat bar. Like it'll be 1 or 2 inch wide flat bar by, I think the last one I did was 1/4 inch thick. But this one I'm doing just 5/8 square bar. Just to kind of give it a neat look to it, since the whole thing is really made out of square bar. Next bracket I do, I'll have flat bar for the back plate. There's me just starting to roll that scroll. Ain't too big of a scroll on it, but it's just enough to kind of draw attention to it. Now I could have just left it a square end and done it that way, but I don't like the way that looks. Here's me throwing my touch mark on it. For the longest time, I never really touch marked anything until I went on eBay and seen someone trying to sell some of my work for being 200-year-old work. So ever since then, I've been touch marking everything. They were even trying to sell it for way more than what I sold it to them for, which still pisses me off, but whatever. But it's always a good idea to touch mark your work, and there's the bracket.